I've got a problem. This is an old film camera from 1952, before my parents were even born. And it works, but I want to make it work with this, a modern flash from 2017.
Wow.
That's 65 years newer, even though it's Godox. So, can it be done? And even if it works, can it take good photos? Let's find out. So this big old camera is the Busch Pressman Model D. It shoots on 4x5 sheet film, which is just like 35mm film, but way bigger. So how do we get a flash on there? Well, with most 35mm cameras, I could just slap this transmitter up here on the hot shoe, and that's it. Whenever I fire the shutter, the flash goes off, and I get a photograph instead of a blank piece of film. But old press cameras like the Busch Pressman don't have hot shoes. So how am I supposed to plug in the flash? Well, look here, right outside of the lens. That's the shutter assembly, and that's usually where you'll find something like this. This is a PC connector, and no, it's not for computers. It's a socket for plugging in your flash. Only problem is, this shutter doesn't have one. In fact, this shutter has no plugs at all. Now, I didn't let that stop me in the past. In this video, where I used the Busch Pressman to shoot directly onto paper instead of film, I simply opened the shutter, pushed this button to fire the flash, and closed the shutter. But that only really works in a studio with a tripod. Here's how it looked when I tried to do it handheld. So, if I wanted to shoot this big honkin' camera handheld with a flash, my only option was to get another lens. Oh no, I gotta buy another lens? So, since I like to go wide, I got me this Wollensak 90mm, which is roughly equivalent to a 28mm on a 35mm camera.
Millimeters.
Anyway, more importantly, it has a flash plug. Just not a very good one. You see, before they invented hot shoes and PC connections, they had this. This is a bi-post connection. So now all I gotta do is buy an adapter, right? Yeesh, that's more than I spent on this lens. Besides, my transmitter doesn't even have a PC port. So unless I want to waste a bunch of money on a bunch of daisy-chained adapters, it's time for a DIY solution. So we need to make this bi-post connection talk to this hot shoe mounted transmitter. And the electric contacts that you find on the bottom of the transmitter are the same as the ones you'd find on the bottom of any regular flash. Like this one. And I'm no electrician, but I think they work like this. You see, the bottom of a flash has these metal contacts that line up with contacts on the hot shoe. So when you fire the shutter on a camera, it completes the circuit and sends a signal to the flash to fire at the exact same moment that the shutter is open. Now, you don't need some fancy electronics to complete that circuit. You just need something metal. So, theoretically, I should just be able to carefully hold the flash up against the bi-post connection like this, fire the shutter, and wowee-woo, it works. So at this point, we could either solder some wires from the shutter to the transmitter, or we could use this. This is a cheapo hot shoe extender. It lets you plug one end on your camera and one end on your flash, so you can hold your flash like this and cosplay as Bruce Gilden. Anyway, this one's broken, so let's open her up. Luckily, these dinky little things are super easy to take apart. Just push on these tabs and pry off the back plate. Then you can push the plastic part out of the metal part. Then the whole thing just falls apart. And here you go. It's pretty simple. Just some wires attached to some metal pins.
Well, there's your problem. The yellow one.
So yeah, the yellow cable was detached from its metal contact. Anyway, let's open up the other end and see what we're working with.
Well, this one's even worse.
Yeah, so the other end was in pretty rough shape. So after knocking off the dust and staring at both ends for a bit, I decided this end was getting scrapped and the other end was getting fixed. So if I wanted to reattach that one broken connection, I needed to strip the wire a bit. So I grabbed some wire strippers, but it wasn't working. So it's X-Acto time. So I carefully held the yellow wire in place and tried not to cut myself as I sliced it open. And after making a little headway, I started picking at it with my fingernails.
This is why I don't clip my nails.
And I just kept picking at it until it looked like this. Then I wrapped that raw wire around the pin like so and used my grandpa's giant solder gun to make it permanent. With that end fixed, I just put it back together and attached it to one of my Godox speed lights. But at this point, the other end is just a bunch of exposed wires. So it's time to see if we can hotwire a flash.
Watch this.
And holy shit, looks like we're onto something. Now we just need something to hold them wires on the lens. And lucky for me, I got just the thing. This is a Molex cable. If you've ever built a PC, then you've probably futzed around with one of these things. Normally, it's used to plug optical drives into your computer's power supply, but nobody uses CDs anymore. CD's nuts.
Got it!
So I'm gonna cut off the end of it, strip the wires, splice them with the flash cable, plug it into the shutter, and it works! So I went back out to Grandpa's solder house, wrapped my new Franken cord with electrical tape, and this is my one-of-a-kind DIY bi-post to hot shoe flash adapter. Admittedly, it isn't the most elegant solution. I left the Molex head as is, with 2 unused wires flopping around, but I think it's working. Let's find out. So I decided my first victim would be Harley, because she's a fat old cat that doesn't really move around that much. Anyway, I took a test exposure with my Sony a7 III, which I would show you, but I think I deleted it. Then I just translated those same settings to the Busch Pressman and fired away. And look at that, it's beautiful. Harley is tack sharp, and there's tons of tones. By the way, if you're wondering how I did a 35mm Sprocket Pano and a 4x5 press camera, leave a comment below and I'll get to that episode eventually. Okay, so it looks like my little flash adapter is working. Enough with the test strips, let's rip some 4x5. So I loaded up some expired Foma Pan 400. Now it's time for puppy pics. Hey, so we're gonna see what kind of settings we need. Let's see. That's putting us about at f32. That's as closed down as this lens gets. I'm at about 3 feet. That's about how long my arm is. We're stopped down to f32. You see what I did with my arm there? What I'm trying to do is guess the distance from my camera to the subject, aka zone focusing. Now, I could put the camera on a tripod and make sure I'm in focus by looking at the ground glass, but as soon as you put film in, you can't see shit. So if I want to use this press camera, handheld, out in the field as God intended, I need to be able to guess the distance to my subject. And that's the entire reason why I wanted to add a flash. Let me explain. The more light I can throw out there with the flash, the more I can stop down my aperture, which puts more of my scene in focus, making it a lot easier to guess my focusing distance. Because if I'm stopped all the way down to f32, as long as I'm in the ballpark, we're gonna be in focus. Okay, now we're ready to rock it. What did I tell you? Look at that tack sharp puppy boy. Admittedly, it's a little bit underexposed, but look at that detail. You can see every single hair on that puppy. I'd say that's a win. Okay, now if we really want to put this setup to the handheld press photographer test, we need a more elusive subject. Like my mom's big cock. We call him Big Boy. So, since the chickens won't let me get close with a flash meter, once again I took some test exposures with the Sony a7 III. Then I grabbed the press camera and just started blasting.
I hope I don't get chicken shit on me.
So here's the first frame, and while it's nothing spectacular, it definitely shows that this setup is more than capable of capturing some passably sharp chick pics.
Locked and loaded. Oh, now we got the rooster here.
And here's the cock shot. Definitely not a decisive moment, but you can't make an omelet without wasting a few frames. Okay, enough with the animals. It's time to take some people pictures.
We're gonna go take some 4x5 portraits. Well, Sarah's gonna take them. I'm the model today.
I'm glad I brought this instead of a C-stand.
Okay, here we are in the barn, so I can make my modeling debut. But first, I had to mansplain to Sarah how cameras work.
Internet, welcome to the studio. So I'm gonna set this up for Sarah. If you've never used one of these, first thing you gotta do is grab the lens, get it out onto the bed like that. And we metered so that we can stop all the way down because we're gonna be zone focusing, so we want as much leeway as possible. So we gotta stop this all the way down to f32, and we'll probably shoot at 1/50, should be fine. And I always like to do a little test, make sure it's firing. We'll see what we got. Hopefully.
This is what we got. Now, it's not Sarah's fault. I had the light meter and I obviously fucked up. But it's not all for nothing. These wider shots actually came out pretty decent, except...
Honestly, I thought I was a lot tighter.
Yeah, so not only are we guessing the focus with this setup, but since we're using the sports finder with a much wider lens than it was made for, we're also guessing the framing. Anyway, other than that, they're sharp enough and there's plenty of tones in there. But you see this shadow down here? Well, there's a problem. But first, selfie time! So, since the other shots were all dark and moody, I set up outside so I could fill the entire 4x5 frame instead of just being a circle of flash surrounded by darkness.
Okay, so I'm trying to set up a scene over here where I'm gonna be in the shade and it's gonna be a brighter background so that I can kind of use this as a fill flash. We got it just set to 3 feet and we're trying to meter so that we can stop all the way down to f32. It looks like the lens is looking right at me and I kind of do this to make sure I'm about 3 feet away. But first I should go ahead and use my phone to meter for the background, okay? 1/100 for that. This dark slide.
And would you look at that? Again, they came out decently sharp. And with the ambient sunlight, there's plenty of context surrounding me, so I'm not just an isle of light in a sea of darkness. But remember that shadow from earlier? Well, look down here. That's the camera bed. You see, this new lens is so much wider than the one it came with. So wide that this part of the camera is getting in the shot. So if I want to keep shooting wide 4x5 in the future, I'm probably going to need another camera system. Oh no, I need to buy a new camera? But for now, since all these frames have been boring test shots, let's have some fun.
Okay, so now let's have some fun. We've done enough tests with black and white, boring black and white. We're gonna do color! We're gonna do Ektachrome and cross-process it. And Sarah's gonna get a contrasty, colorful outfit to complement the green.
Okay, so while I wanted to do 4x5 flash so I could do zone focus, fast-paced pressman stuff like Ouija, I'm the first to admit that the pictures so far haven't been that great. So for the finale, I decided to give up on that pressman shit, grab a tripod, and set up some large format Ektachrome studio shots.
And we got some magical, mystical photos, hopefully. I'm gonna leave all this set up and develop these and see what we got.
And if they're bad, you'll never see them. Yay!
Let's see what we got. We got a Sarah. Look at that. We got two Sarahs.
I look like a burrito.
And holy shit, these cross-processed Ektachrome sheets slap fucking hard. I couldn't believe these scans. The colors and the details look sick. Way better than last time I cross-processed positives. I mean, the only other film I ever cross-processed like this was some Ektachrome that expired in 1981. Go watch that video after you get to the end of this one. By the way, looky here, I fixed our little camera bed problem. By unscrewing this and lifting the entire lens up, I was able to get it out of the shot. So I guess I don't need one, but I still want a new 4x5. Anyway, let's shoot more Ektachrome.
We like the pictures so much, we're gonna do them again, but this time we're gonna process them as positives. So this is my process for using this thing as a studio camera. We got the camera. This is the modeling light, this is the key light, and this is a fill. We're bouncing a speed light off here for a fill. 3, 2, 1.
Get on in there.
Okay, Sarah's turn to take the picture. Hey, now I got to have my picture taken, and I feel very pretty.
So, like I said, we liked the pictures so much we wanted to do it all again and develop them as positive this time. Though I didn't use E6 chemicals. I did a cool DIY color reversal process that I've shown before in that expired Ektachrome video I mentioned earlier. It's honestly pretty freaking cool, but I'm already producing a full-length episode all about DIY color reversal. So be sure to subscribe and ring that bell icon if you want to see that one. Unless you're watching this in like 2030, in which case it's probably already out. I hope. Anyway, let's see what we got.
Are you nervous?
I'm a little nervous. Last time I did this, the pictures came out blank. Well, we got a picture there.
Look at that! Nothing compares with pulling a positive this size out of a tank. It looks freaking sick in person. And here's the scan. This shit pops. Tack sharp, ultra detail, and the finest grain. But, disclaimer, I edited it. Here's how the scan looked right out of camera. Now, this Ektachrome expired back in 2005. Plus, my chemicals are getting pretty exhausted. So, I don't know if it's because of the old film, old chems, or if my DIY reversal process just needs a little tweaking. Anyway, here's my picture.
Holy cow.
Again, it looks frickin' sick. And yeah, I had to edit this one too, but the sheets look awesome in person. Almost as awesome as you'd look if you like, subscribe, ring that bell icon, leave a comment, or go to madebylopro.com to buy merch or join LoPresti Army by giving what you can today to help make analog fun again. Thank you, Internet. I'm Nick.
Very pretty. So, I'm excited.
We really need a studio.
Yeah, we do.
There's
not enough room in here, guys. Donate. Join LoPresti Army today.
If you guys want cooler things, you need to
Donate
help us. This is not working, guys. This is too tight of a space.
Help us get out of the den, or I'll kill you. Thank you.